Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a red solo cup. We have curves and surfaces that are going to provide this red solo cup for ourselves. Before I even jump into that, I want you guys to get comfortable with being able to move around in the space. So everybody go into perspective, and you're going to use the scroll wheel to zoom in and out. Now that works here in perspective just as well as it works here in top view. So you can do that in any of the views. You can zoom in and out, focus, kind of get to how close you need to be on a detail or how zoomed out you want to be. So it's very simple scrolling back and forth. Now, next, we changed the units, right? Okay, so that's being able to zoom in and out. Next, if you right click with the mouse in perspective, and in perspective only for now, it allows you to orbit. Now orbiting is going around a model, being able to look at it in different directions in 3D. One thing with this, you can get really confused, is this. It could be like this, and you're like, what the heck's going on? Everything's inverted, I don't know what I'm doing, right? You're beneath, you're underneath looking up. So you want to try to keep yourself above that plane there. So if you ever get kind of dazed and you're wondering what's going on, you might be looking at it from the bottom. Another just quick thing here, if you hover over this guy, it allows you to reset your viewports. So if you left click, it resets all 4 viewports. And if you right click, it says to the default viewports, which is probably already there. So if you ever get really lost and confused, you can go up to right here, and you can either left click or right click, and it'll adjust everything for you. Let's not worry about all that for now. So that's just if you get lost, if you can't figure out where you are, that's the quick go-to right there. It'll get you back where you need to be. Next, if you hold down Shift and then you right click, just like as if you were to orbit, but if you hold down Shift, you're going to get a hand. This hand is the pan tool. And so it's going to allow you to move from side to side instead of going around something. And in the top view, front view, and right view, if you just right click, no shift, one-handed, it's going to give you the pan. Now, it is possible. You definitely do not want to do this. You do not want to orbit in these views here. These views are orthogonal, they're flat. They're meant for you just looking at a 2D perspective. So, and if you get in trouble there, you can always come back up to this and it'll clean it up for you, bring it back to normal. So you're going to be doing your zooming in all these as possible. You can right click to pan around in these 3 views, and if you hold down Shift and right click, you can move around in the perspective, and here's sort of your orbiting, so you can look around an object. Okay. Next thing, let's talk about what I had brought up earlier down here at the lower area. I'm going to see if I can't bring this up. I should be able to, so everybody can see it. Okay, so right here, I want everybody to turn on just the grid snap. So that means it's on when it's highlighted. I'm going to turn off the smart track just in case, turn that off. And the gumball. So just grid snap and gumball only. Has everybody got that? Yeah.
What does planar do?
Planar, that's going to allow you to work on a flat surface. So it's going to allow everything to be on one plane when you're drawing. So for now, it's just going to be grid snap and gumball. Grid snap is going to allow you to snap to points on this grid, wherever it may be. And gumball is a tool that allows you to move, rotate, shift. It allows you to do a lot of things where you don't actually have to type the commands like move and rotate. And so now that we got those 2 things on, let's change this thing. Let's change the units. So back there, you asking about units. Right now, What are the units for everybody? What does everybody have? Do you know? Everybody's got millimeters. What do I have? Can you see it in the front here? I have feet, right? So we need to get all on the same level here, and we're all going to go to inches, okay? Yeah, and I'm going to show you how to do that now. So you're going to go File, Open. Oh, I'm sorry. File, New. And you should get this dialog box here. And it gives you all your options, you know, if you want to do large objects versus small objects and feet versus, you know. So what we're going to choose is small objects because we're doing a cup, and inches. So everybody click on that and click Open. Now if you notice, you look down at the bottom next to where it says Default, that has changed from millimeters to inches. So now it's letting you know you're in inches. Okay. So, let's start building this cup. What's our first, oh, go ahead.
Couldn't you also go down to the default at the bottom and change it from there? Or is that
Here?
different? Yeah.
If you do, you can actually do that. That's a good point. If you right click on inches, you can go to Unit Settings. And now this is going to take you to a Document Properties box. This is the more holistic way to look at it when you're in a file. Let's say if you don't want to do File New and you're already in a file and you need to change it, you can do that. You can either do like what was just discussed. You can right click on the inches and click Unit Settings, or you can type, if you like to type, Options, and it'll bring it up. And
now from here, how do you tell it's a small diameter?
from here, that's something that you should set up in the beginning.
All right.
You should decide in the beginning whether you want to do large or small objects. So right here, when you're in, does everybody have this open? Yeah? All right, go ahead and get it open if you don't. You can either type Options and hit Enter, or you can right click on inches and click Unit Settings. So once you're here, it verifies that we're in inches. There's a whole bunch of other stuff over here that we'll discuss at a later time. I'll get into that. This is your absolute tolerance. So what this does is it decides how close something's going to be to another thing. It's really about how tight you're going to make your model. We don't have to worry about these others here. Now, one thing to definitely note is distance display. So in the distance display, we're going to set it to feet and inches, because that's pretty much the way we look at a ruler. And right here, we can go to 16th. Now, if you look at all the different options here, you can obviously go whole dimensions. I like to do 16th. And then click OK. So now that that is done, we have set up, you know, our units. Okay. So let's get started on that cup. So I'd like everybody to go to the curves drop down and go down to circle. And then we're going to just do the simple center radius circle. So go ahead and click that. Now, like I brought up in the earlier video, we need to see what this is saying here. What do we want from this? So center of circle. So where do we want to place that center of circle? 0, 0, 0. Does everybody know why 0, 0, 0? Yeah, it's the center of the graph. It's basically the origin point. Kevin brought up a lot about world axis, the X and Y. What he's talking about is this grid right here, this plane. You see this, oops, sorry about that. You see this green and orangey red line? That's letting you know your X and Y axes. And so that has to do a lot with the X and the Y coordinates when you're doing something in Grasshopper. For instance, when you pulled out a node, it's set directly on 0, 0, 0 because that's the default. It has to set it somewhere, and so it chooses that point. So knowing how the grid is set up is definitely an essential thing. If you look here in perspective, you can actually see this little gray icon right here. It lets you know your X, your Y, and your Z. So you can see right there that X, Y, and Z is like that. So that actually helps you show you if you're above or below this plane. Okay, so let's set this circle at 0, 0, 0, because that's the center of our circle. Okay. So the diameter of our first circle is going to be 2.5 inches, right? So before you click anything, what is it asking? It's asking for the radius. So what's the radius of 2.5? 1 1/4. I heard it from someone. So let's go ahead and type 1.25. And because we changed our units to inches, it's going to do 1.25 inches, which that right there sets our circle. So I'm kind of zoomed out a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and click this here, and look, it brought me right to it. So there's our first circle. We're on our way. So next, let me make sure everybody's got a circle, right? No? Okay. Let me pause the video and I'll help you. Okay, now we're going to do our next circle. So let's do the exact same thing again. We're going to go curve. I'm going to do a little bit faster this time. We're going to go circle, center radius. We're going to place it at 0, 0, 0. Hit enter. Now we need to know the next size of the next cup, right? Because there's the top ring and the bottom ring. They're not exactly the same. So the top of the cup is going to be bigger. It's going to be a 4-inch diameter. So what is it asking for? It's asking for the radius. Now you can easily change it to diameter. If you look there, see next to it we have a hyperlink. You could change it, click that, and now it's asking, what is it asking for? The diameter. Now you don't have to do that. You can keep it at radius. I'm just letting you guys know that you can change it there. So what's our radius? 2. So let's type 2 and enter. So now we got 2 circles on the same plane, different sizes. Okay, so we have a height, right? We need to know how tall this cup is. So our height happens to be 5 inches. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the larger curve, and you notice this icon comes up and there's all this stuff, all these colors, right? That's your gumball. That's the tool that's going to help you move your object, your curve, your line, your surface, anything from one point to another. So what we're going to do, I'm going to allow everybody to do this. Select the blue arrow and just pull up and pull down and just kind of get comfortable. All I want is for you to do this. Feel free to let go whenever and just hit, like many other programs, Control-Z, and it'll bring it right back to where it was initially. I just want everybody to get comfortable feeling that you can move something up and down and in your Z axis. So we need to move this thing up 5 inches, right? So since we need to be precise, we're going to double click on the blue arrow and we're going to get a little box that's going to say how much do we want to raise it up. So we want to raise it up 5. So 5, enter, and there it is. So now we have 2 circles 5 inches apart. Let me know if anybody needs help. Is everybody good?
I think 1 click is okay, doesn't need double click.
1 click is fine. And there it is. Okay, now that we have our 2 circles, we need to figure out how can we connect the 2 circles together and what are we going to use, right? So we kind of discussed in the lecture a little bit that we need a surface. We need a surface to connect these two things together. So we're all going to go to the Surface tab. And right on top right here, we have Loft. So everybody click Loft. So what's the command line asking for? Select curves to loft. So we want to select both curves. So go ahead and run a window over the top of both, like that. And they should highlight yellow. Now when you run a window over them, you want to click, hold, and drag. And that should select both of them. Once they're both yellow, that means they've both been highlighted. As soon as you have that, you can hit enter. Now what is it asking? Drag seam point to adjust. Well, what that talks about is this seam right here. Now you really don't have to move it because it's so simple that it's pretty much there for you. It's right where it needs to be. Both arrows are pointing the same direction. It's good. So the seam has been adjusted. There's no need to do anything, so let's hit enter. So now we get the Loft Options dialog box. There's a lot of different things you can do here. For now, normal's fine. We don't need to change anything. So we're just going to hit OK. So once you hit OK, there it is. You see something there. It's wiry. It doesn't quite look like a surface, right? You're like, what the heck is this thing? So I'm going to help you make it look like a surface. What we're going to do is in perspective, hover over the perspective, and right click. And as soon as you right click, a bunch of options come up. Currently you're in wireframe mode, so that's why you're only seeing wires. Let's click shaded. So as soon as you click shaded, you get this object and you can start to see, okay, there's a surface here now. So it's almost a cup. Can't really put liquid in it yet because it has no bottom, right? So how can we do that? How can we close this thing off? Does anybody have any guesses? What was that? Planar surface. You're correct. So what we're going to do there is, let's type this command in so we can get used to doing it multiple ways. So we're going to go planar. And just typing in planar, you have a bunch of options here. We're going to choose planar surface. Let's see if the help menu can help us here too. So where can we find this command? Toolbars, surface creation. And let's see here. Planar curves. I believe that's the same thing. Yep. So that's another way to find it. Okay, so now what is it asking? It's asking select planar curves to build surface. So what it's asking is select a curve. That curve is going to create a flat surface for us. So we need to choose a curve for that, correct? So everybody click and don't do anything else. You'll see a selection menu pop up. Click on the lower circle. So what this selection menu is doing is it's telling you, do you want to select the curve or line, the circle that we originally drew, or do you want to select the surface edge? Now the surfaces, obviously they have edges as well, but what we want to do is select curve. So we're selecting curve. Now that it's highlighted, what is it asking? Select planar curves to build surface. We did that. Now press enter. Now if you orbit, you'll see now you have a bottom on your cup. If you look underneath it, you'll see that it's there. We got a full cup going. It's looking good. So I'm going to go back like that, and I am going to pause this video now. Okay, so we need to save this now that we've made the cup. So we're going to go File, Save. I'm going to go to the location. I actually don't have a drive yet because I'm so new. So I believe you guys maybe as well don't have your own personal drive, right? So that's making it real difficult on everybody. What we can do though is we can save it to the desktop. So everybody click desktop. And we need to name this thing. So let's start off with the title of the class. We'll go, let's just keep it all lowercase. Arc 222. It's up to you how you want to do it. I like to put underscores just to separate rather than a space. And then we're going to do the week 1, day 1. And then underscore. And then let's call this red solo cup. Now there might be a little bit of difference here between what me and Kevin are doing, and we'll resolve that. We'll figure out the best way to name it, but it's essentially the same way. So now that we have that written out, we can hit save. And that's it right there. We've saved it. So I'm going to go ahead and pause this video, and then I'll show you the next step.